Okay. I want to believe you can see that. That's why. Okay, thank you so much. Someone pressed the record, but thank you, Deborah. All right, good. So, and I'm going to be starting this masterclass this evening by asking this very interesting question. Why are you in education? Why do you work in education? Why are you a teacher? Why are you a curriculum developer? Why are you a school owner? Why are you a school leader? I'll be happy to hear, right? And just like I said, it's meant to be conversational. So please, if you would like to speak, kindly raise your hand. I'll call on you and then you share, right? Of course, you can just first introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you work and what you work as, so that gives us context, and then you share with us why are you in education. No long story, just keep it simple and short, right? Why are you in education? So please, I want people as much as possible to speak. Only type if it is absolutely impossible for you to to speak, right? So that's where you should type. But I mean, if you can speak, please raise your hand. I'm definitely going to call on you to speak. So why are you in education? Mr. Alajide, do you want to speak? Okay, I can see Mr. Oluwaseun's hand up first. So please go ahead. Oluwaseun then. You're muted if you're speaking.
Yes, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Oluwaseun. You can call me MSC. I'm a corporate trainer in an IT firm, and I am in the line of education because I want to impact people's lives, and I want to also see them be productive at what they do to make the business achieve her objectives. So when people are able to, go from training into production to do what they're expected to do, and it shows in their results, the KPIs that they need to attain are being achieved in terms of the targets. That makes me believe that I'm doing something wonderful that is also adding value to the company. So that's the reason why I'm currently doing what I'm doing in the line of learning and development. Thanks.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really good. Uh, love how you tie productivity to, the work that you do in corporate training, right? How your work, helps to increase productivity within the organization where you. And I think that's really, really good. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else wants to go, please? See a lot of people are muted. Please, if you're not speaking, just mute yourself. If you want to speak, raise your hand, please. All right. Please, if you want to speak, why are you in education? I have only one person who has spoken since. Let me look into the chat and see if there's anything. There's nothing in the chat. All right. Abegunde Janet Damiola, please go ahead to speak.
Good
Okay,
evening,
Janet's hand is
everyone.
down now. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening. I can hear you.
My name is Abigunde Janet Damilala. So I teach in Kaplan International Community School. The reason I'm in education is because to impact lives and to being fulfilled in life.
Nice, nice. I mean, impact lives, being fulfilled in life. I mean, so I'm hearing it from the point of your own self, the fulfillment, in terms of the fact that you want to feel fulfilled, you think you're making an impact, right? And then as well, looking at, the impact in the life of other people as well. Thank you so much for sharing. This is really good. All right, I can see Favor Daniel Adeoye's hand up, so please go ahead to share.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, sir. Yeah. My name is Favor Daniel Aduye. an educator at Chrisland Schools, a class educator. Yeah, the reason why I'm in education is majorly because of the love for it, the love for teaching. Yeah, I love associating myself with kids, and there's just this
Yeah.
fulfillment it brings me. So it's basically because of the love for it, to see impacting kids, to see kids that were not reading before, seeing them now read, seeing kids that couldn't write before, seeing them now write. So it's just majorly for the love of it, the impact education like provides for teachers. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you very much. This is very helpful. Like just seeing your students move from point A to point B gives you joy, right? It gives me joy as well. And I'm sure that is the same for many other people on the call as well, right? Seeing learning outcomes being achieved based on the work that you're putting into what you're doing, right? And that's really good. And the way, I mean, I feel like there's always this joy when you see that what you're doing is working, right? You bring in a different methodology in teaching a particular topic, and the struggling student now understands the topic. You go home feeling very fulfilled. Like teaching is really real in terms of impact. So thank you so much, Favor, for sharing. Really appreciate it. And to everybody who has shared, really good. I'm just going to, I know we have 2 messages in the chat box. I'll read out loud. Aina Fasad says, I am passionate about teaching and mentoring students, helping them develop and inspire to reach their potential while also learning in the process to become a better person. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. So it's also to see how our work as teachers transcend beyond just giving to also receiving, right? As an educator, you are not just only giving out value, you're also receiving value back in return. And I think that's something that we all need to come to terms with. Sometimes the work might feel like, I mean, I just keep giving. I just keep giving. I just keep doing things, right? But who is giving to me? But if you look closely, there's something that returns back to you in terms of value or virtue, from the work that you do as an educator. Rachel Ido says, I'm in education because I am passionate about inspiring and building lives. I believe every child has great potential, and I want to play a part in helping them discover that potential, develop confidence, and work toward a brighter future. For me, education is a powerful tool to shape lives and create lasting impact. Thank you so much for sharing. This is like really, really good. Like I feel really good to be an educator just reading this. Um, Thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing. This is really, really good. I mean, okay, the messages are pouring in now. Olutola says, I'm passionate about helping young learners read and know things. I have joy when I see them thrive. I believe every child has great potential, and I want to be part of the building. Nice. I think that's all I'll take, at this time. But thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Those who unmuted themselves to share, and those who posted in the chat as well to share. I mean, thank you so much for contributing to the session. And it's just really interesting to see. I think there are common themes along, what has been shared so far, right? There's a common theme around passion. I can hear passion loud and clear. I can hear, people who are mission-minded. I can hear giving back, right? People who feel like they've received and they need to give back to others. I can hear a lot around innovation, creativity, right? I can hear a lot about impact, right? That you're having either in your classroom or in your corporate, in your corporation where you work as a corporate trainer. Like you want to see impact, right? Impact in learning outcomes that are not just learning outcomes, but learning outcomes that transcends into action and that now transcends into productivity at whatever level the learner is playing at. And I think that's really beautiful. And those are really strong reasons why, you should be in education. And the reason why this question is very important is because, I mean, we are in a situation, especially when you come to Sub-Saharan Africa, you have quite a number of people. All right, sorry about that. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. So we have a lot of people who are working in education, but they do not know why they are working in education. And as bad as that might sound to so many of the people on the call here today, because I mean, you can't be on this call if you don't kind of like have a sense of, okay, why you're here, right? Even if it's not as deep as other people's reasons, but there's a reason why you're here, Sha. But there are some people who are practically in this profession, who are doing this work at whatever level, wherever they are, and they practically do not know why they're doing it, right? And it's also a reflection of the society we live in, where unemployment is high, right? And as a result of high unemployment, people get themselves in jobs, right, just to survive, and not necessarily, because they have like a real meaning of how it connects to their lives, right? And so you see people just like, rolling on and rolling on and rolling on, rolling on. I mean, so it's a reflection of the society. And so this question is always very important. And and this is my own story, and I'm just going to be brief about this. I trained as an accountant, right? I studied accounting in school. For people that don't know, I mean, now I studied accounting in school, right? But after my university education, I decided to work in education, right? And that's because when I had to serve my NOSC, yeah, right, I was posted to teach. And then in that classroom, I saw kids who, of course, they were not they were not studying at their grade level. There's obviously a problem, right? And then I saw that it was the same across board, not just only my classroom. Different schools, in the community where I served, had that similar challenge. A lot of children are just there wasting time because, I mean, there's practically nothing of value happening, in those situations in those schools. And I'm like, okay, something needs to give, right? And so I started a book recycling project. And the reason why I took that action was because of my own experience growing up as well. I attended public schools all my life, and then of course I know how hard it is to access high quality education. Multiple, please mute yourself. I know how hard it is to access quality education. And I know that at some point in my life, I mean, for me to get to that point where I'm now able to go for my national youth service, there were educators along that line that helped me. And so I had like a thing for education. And so I started a project on book recycling, collected old and reusable books, and then of course, recycle that to help kids in that area where I was serving. And I saw like real impact happening, right, as a result of that work, right? The impact was not even coming from my teaching. It was coming much more from the book clubs, the reading clubs, the study groups that started because I decided to go ahead to recycle books to help people there, right? And then, of course, after my service year, I had offers in banks, 2 offers in 2 banks, and then 1 offer to teach, right? The teaching wasn't going to pay me 1/4 of what the banks were paying. But long story short, I went into teaching because I developed this interest in education, because I thought that if young people like me were not coming into the space to to do something about the challenges that we are seeing, then the problem will continue to linger. And so I started teaching. At some point, I started digital skills boot camp. And after my teaching for 2 years, I realized that what I wanted to do was to help educators become competent enough to do their jobs, because I saw a talent gap. And a lot of things happened that actually made me come to that decision. But at the end of the day, if you look at my journey, right, there was a need, right, that I saw in the education system, right? And that need moved me to action, to begin to do things, take initiatives, right? And it led me deeper into the sector, into the space. I understood more the challenges that are there. And then I was able to pinpoint an entry point to say, okay, this is where I want to start solving the problem from. So there was a journey that, sparked the why in me, but did not just only spark the why, it also deepened my conviction as to what I want to do exactly in education, right? And that's how, Schoolinka came to be. So, and the reason why I share that story, and the reason why we listen to other people as well share their stories, is to let us know that your success in education, right, is connected to your why. Right. And I'm going to repeat that. Your success in education is deeply connected to your why. So if you're working in education today, what will make you stand out as an educator or as an education professional is a deep understanding of who you are and why you're working in education. if that is not figured out, you can become, successful by chance or by luck, but you will not be able to sustain that success, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because education is a very mission-oriented space to work in, right? Education is not like someone who just, opens a supermarket today. Of course, there are people who open supermarket because they are quite passionate about, supermarkets, meeting people's daily needs, right? Having grocery stores, but you practically don't need passion to open a supermarket, honestly. In fact, if there's any passion you need to open a supermarket, it will probably be your passion for money. You have passion for making money. I mean, you can establish, if you have like 5 billion naira, you can establish like chains of supermarket stores, right? And you don't even care about the business, right? You don't really care, but you know your business turns out money for you, right? But of course, there are people, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people who are quite passionate about what they're doing, even if it's just, supermarket. And it's the same thing, even in education. There are people who are not passionate about education, but they have schools, right? They just invest and set up schools and just like find an educator to run it, right? But the truth is, when you are looking, the truth is, if you as an educator, right, by yourself, wants to, become successful in the space, you want to be able to stand out, you want to be able to, you reach the top in your career, your success as an educator is very much connected to your why. You need to be able to define that clearly, right? And it has to be strong enough to take you, to the last mile, right, of the journey. And so that's why we had to answer that question. And I hope that people who did not speak out were also trying to answer that question. You're also trying to answer that question in your head, right? And trying to, or just trying to think about it. And even if you don't have an answer, but you are thinking about it already, because this is very, very, very important, right? So let us move ahead. And so like, just like I said, the question is, you need to keep asking yourself over and over again why you are in education. So this is like the second thing that we want to talk about. It's really around education as an ecosystem. And we all know what an ecosystem is, at least from the, will I say, scientific, definition. An ecosystem basically, right, how, living things cohabit with one another, what's the interaction between living things and all. And it's also the same in education. It's also the same in education. And the interesting part is the fact that many people who even work in education don't see education as an ecosystem. Now, let's even talk about people outside the education system. There are a lot of people that when you meet them on the road and you tell them, for instance, I've been at events when I tell people, okay, we're introducing ourselves. I'm like, oh, I work in education. And the person's like, oh, yeah, what school do you teach? I'm like, okay. So if anybody tells you they work in education, they practically teach in school or have work in a classroom. Abibat, please mute yourself. I'm going to mute you here now. All right, good. So, like, does that mean that I work within the four walls of a classroom or work in a school, right? And that's because people don't see the other, the other players within education. People are not seeing, those who are the non-teaching staff, those who are the school leaders, those who are the curriculum developers, those who are the policymakers, those who are designing education products, those who are organizing PE and, inter-house sports, those who are, first aid, the nurses at schools, right? Like people don't see this as those who manage school buses, right? People don't see all these people, but they are part of the education ecosystem. And, to be honest, you can't blame people for not seeing this entire ecosystem for what it is. Because even if you look at it, right, when it comes to even government spending, when it comes to education, it's quite siloed. Government will invest in education. And when you look at the education budget, you can almost tell where the money is going to, bulk of the money is going to every year. Is it that going into paying teachers? No, it's always going to paying teachers' salary. Then building school blocks. So when you talk about education outside, people don't see more than the school building and the teachers that work in the building, right? and maybe the kids that go to school. So when it comes to education, people are limited to understanding how vast or how wide an ecosystem of education is or should be, so that we can be able to deliver high quality learning to the kids in the classroom. And that's something we need to come to. And of course, we can all see it. It came to play recently now with JAMB results, right? JAMB results came out, and only 25% of the students who wrote the exam, got above 200. That's a sorry situation, like a terrible, 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 terrible situation. And it's the statistics that I'm just like really growing over, for a while now. But of course it has happened. And when a lot of people will talk, they're like, teachers are not good. Teachers are not doing their jobs the way they're supposed to do it. Oh, teachers are not challenging the students enough. And I know a lot of teachers have gotten bashes here and there, right, as to what is happening, right? Because and that's just to let us know that people don't see beyond school, the school building, the teachers, and yes, the students. When it comes to education, nobody's talking about who prints the textbooks, who design textbooks, who create learning content on YouTube for kids to learn. Nobody's talking about those people, right? And it reflects in our understanding of what we think education is, and also limits our understanding as to how wide we should be thinking about career pathways and roles in education. Ecosystem, and there are so many interrelated parts that oil the engine of education. I know all of these come together to ensure that instruction is passed, skills are built, and lives are transformed, right? And the earlier we come to this understanding, the better for us, right? As educators, we need to know that, there are like different moving parts in the system, like, and they need to come together, right? And the goal of their coming together is to ensure that whatever instruction you're passing across to the learner gets to them in a way that they understand it, and in a way that they can build skills from that instruction, and that will lead to the transformation of their lives, right? So this is very, very key and very, very important, right? As we go, go thinking about the different career pathways in education. So for an education ecosystem to be successful, a lot needs to be done by many people. I know some of us were in schools where, as a teacher, you're even the one that is ringing the bell for break, and then of course ringing the closing time bells, right? Or you're the one who's like, going to the state's secretariat, or going to education quality assurance to submit your timetable. Like, you're just like everything, right? And if you're looking for where frustration comes in, that's where it comes in, especially for teachers and for educators, because you get to do a lot of things, right? And most times it's because the school that you're working in possibly cannot afford the service of other people. And sometimes it can just be the fact that there's just a wrong understanding about how to run schools, because we think that, as a teacher, you should be able to do everything, right? And this is why there are hundreds of career pathways in education, like hundreds of career pathways in education. And if you look at developed climes, that's what you see happening. You see people begin to think of new roles and new ways to contribute to education. And you start seeing, some like really interesting roles, like, education data engineer. You're like, oh, really, that exists? But it does exist, right? And that was because some people definitely thought that there was a need for that. So a lot needs to be done by many people in education. And for it to be successful, these people needs to be present, right? So what are like the 4 major career pathways in education? Like I said, I'll be very fast with this. And I think we are moving at a very good pace in time. This is 7:03 already for those who are in Nigeria. So what are the different career pathways in education? And I've broken down into 4 major areas. I think that if you want to work in education today, your role will fall in either of these 4 categories, like in any of these 4 categories, right? I don't know, there might be some outliers here and there, but majority of roles in education today falls into these 4 different categories. Now, let's look at the first one, classroom and school, right? Right. So you have like, just a minute. Okay, yeah. So classroom and school. So you have like, where, I mean, and that's where majority of educators fall into, right? Kende, please, I'm going to mute you. You're muted and there's sound coming from it. All right, good. So classroom and schools, like you have, that's the biggest education category in the world today, right? That's the biggest education category. That's where you have majority of role, like majority of the manpower, human resource, workforce in education is sitting inside of schools and sitting inside classrooms. And that's where you find the teachers, the school leaders, school administrators, guidance and counseling unit, the hostel guys who work at sick bay, like anybody you see working in the school fall into this category, and is the most popular, right? And because it's the most popular, people think that's the only way to work and contribute to education, working in the classroom or working in a school, right? And of course, right, it's not, I mean, you can't fault people who think that way, because I mean, at the end of the day, anybody that works in education, what are they working for? For kids, or for like Oluwaseu's case now that works as a corporate trainer, right? It's for the learner at that point in time. And most times you find the learners in a school, whether the school is virtual or in person, wherever it is, they're in the school. And so there's a large concentration of the education workforce in classrooms and schools. Now, the other category is a nonprofit, right? Nonprofits are people who created civil societies, right, to deliver impactful initiatives that have educational outcomes, to their target beneficiaries in whatever communities that they find them in. So anybody who is using a nonprofit model to deliver value to schools, or sorry, to learners, right, is working in the nonprofit category. And we also have a big concentration on this, right? So I have chats with people and say they want to work in education, but okay, I don't want to work in a classroom, but where can I work? And I'm like, okay. And then when we talk about it, you find out that, oh, they actually just really want to start an initiative to probably provide education supplies to students. And I'm like, okay, that's a pathway in education, right? There are a lot of big education nonprofits today that hire people and, of course, really pay them well to work as education associates, education officers, education program managers, right? And most times, if you look at those roles, I've spoken to quite a number of nonprofit leaders, and when they're recruiting for these roles, they usually prefer that someone who has a classroom experience before is applying to those roles, right? So if you are a classroom teacher and you're looking for another exciting place to transition into, you want to consider nonprofits, right? What are the nonprofits? And there are like a good number of them, right? Around across, if you look at it, even in Nigeria today, you have like some education nonprofit that came in, and a lot of people from teachers just like moving to those education nonprofits, blah, 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 right? So, and there are like a lot of roles there that are being occupied by people who don't know jack about education. So that's like another, very good pathway to consider. Education entrepreneurship is the third one. I know there are people on this call today who are school leaders, or don't let me say school leaders, let me say school owners. They run schools. These are education entrepreneurs, right? The people who put the capital down, set up the school, they're entrepreneurs. Apart from that, not only setting up schools, people like me, I'm an education entrepreneur, right? Setting up, or businesses or organizations that definitely delivers on some, education promise. They're education entrepreneurs, right? I know there are a lot of people, like I know a friend of mine who developed this tool, right, that can help students study at night, right? Students who probably need to use torchlight, and they need somewhere to place that torchlight. They put that torchlight in it, and then they're able to study conveniently, right, without struggle. And a lot of parents are buying it for their kids, right? Especially for houses where they don't have, like, there are these focus lights that maybe you are sleeping in a group of people and then you want the light to just focus on you alone as you're reading, so it doesn't disturb other people, right? That tool is very, very, and he made the tool, made the first pilot, and now he had to, when he saw like acceptance, people like really loved it. Now he has started, mass producing this product and people are buying it. He is an education entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, because he's solving a problem in education. Now, he's not creating books, he's not doing online tutorials, but I mean, he's building, lamps that can help kids study at night. That's a problem he has identified in education and he's solving it. So for you as an educator, there might be something that you just think like, I mean, the kids in your classroom need, right? Can you create that solution and can you build a business around it? You're an education entrepreneur, right? So if you can, use business models to solve problems in education, then you fall within this category. Or if you're thinking about doing that, then you fall within this category. Now, the fourth category is education policy. Now, education policy has to do with people who are working mostly with. I've muted Afsa, who's making noise. So people who are working in education policy, they work most times with government, right? You have people who work at the Ministry of Education, people who work at State Universal Basic Education Board, people who work at, UBEC, people who work at Teaching Service Commissions of States, people who work in education quality assurance. These are people who sit in policy. Now, there's also an intersection between nonprofit and policy. There are people who work in nonprofit as well, but is, intersected with policy as well, because I mean, the work that they do in nonprofit is to generate evidence for a particular methodology that can now translate into an education policy that can be adopted by a government, to implement in their various states or, or whatever. But education policymakers are, those people that, especially for those who work in public schools, those who that come to your school maybe on Monday morning, and then all the teachers are running everywhere, to make sure that their lesson notes are complete. Right, that's education policy. And the truth is, even in education policy, there's also this thought around the fact that a lot of people who occupy those positions are people with no prior classroom experience or school experience, right? Remember I said at the start, right? Like majority of, the workforce in education is concentrated in classroom and school, right? And of course, everybody believes that this is where everything happens because this is where you see the impact of the work that everybody does in education. But these other guys here, non-profit, education entrepreneurship, education policy, they also design for classroom and school, right? Their work also contributes to what happened in classroom and school. Now, what happens most times is the fact that there's a huge disconnect between the classroom and school and nonprofit education entrepreneurship and education policy. So you have a lot of people who are working in classroom and school, but they are not able to contribute to the work that happens in nonprofit, not able to contribute to the work that happens in the enterprises and then the policy makers, right? And as a result of that, there's a disconnect, right? And so what you are seeing basically at the end of the day is people doing their things, those who need to consume, whoever's work output does it, whichever way they want. And at the end of the day, you have a chaotic education system. Remember, we talked about education being an ecosystem, and that for it to be successful, we have a lot of people who need to work together to get things done, right? So these different career pathways, right? Pathways that, definitely should be filled up with educators. And that is where I'm driving at, right? A lot of us, we practically just like confine ourselves to, a particular space and think like that's the place I can make an impact. That's a space that, I'm comfortable with, right? Or that's a space that, I think is only available in education. But if you are a classroom teacher today and you think that, I mean, your heart is drawing towards more around how do we develop, or let me say the question you're always asking yourself in the classroom every day is, why is this curriculum structured this way? Why can't it be structured this way? Why can't this topic come before this topic? Or why are we teaching this in this age, right? Like, why are we doing shorthand in business studies in GS2 at this time, right? Why are we doing all those things when the world has moved past shorthand? Why do we keep doing all those things? if you're asking that kind of question, then maybe you want to really sit down and ask yourself, am I supposed to be in the classroom, or I'm supposed to be working at, SUBEB or working at UB? Because that's where my impact will be felt the most, right? Because you're now talking policy, right? You're now talking policy. Or you're in the classroom today, you're like, like, I wish, we can just like develop a program, an after school program for girls to learn about how to code, right? I wish, we can do a program for girls to learn about how to make sanitary pads so that they will not miss school. They will have like pads to use during their menstrual period. Then you want to sit down and reevaluate while you're in the classroom, right? Of course, there are things you can still do within the classroom, but if you want to create impact on a larger scale, you need to start thinking of where you are currently as an educator. The industry, or let me say the category that you're working in education, does this serve your why? Remember, we talked about the why. Does this serve your why for working in education? Or is there more that can be achieved in a different category? I don't know if this is making sense. So let me just pause here and take a pause check, right? Please, I can see in the chat box that, Yasi says he wants to speak. Please, can you all hear me very clearly? Let me know, because I think Tomiba says my voice is too low. She can't hear me clearly. Please confirm if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
I can hear
Yes,
you
I
clearly.
All right, thank
can.
you very. All right, good. Thank you so much. Thank you very. So Tomiba, maybe you want to check your internet or network. To see if you can hear me. Okay, Yasin, okay, Yasin, please go ahead to speak, please, very quickly, so that we can finish on time. If you're still on the call. Muhammad Yasin, do you want to speak? Or we just go ahead? Okay, anyone who wants to speak, please. Maybe you want to speak, you have a question or something, or you just want to affirm what I've just said. Please, you can raise your hand and I'll call you in. Okay, looks like I've been clear so far, or people are not listening. I'm not sure which feedback I should take, okay, I've started an interesting discussion following. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Any
listening.
other?
It's just
You've been
I'm trying to
clear.
assimilate everything you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, all right, good. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that feedback. All right, good. So, if you're trying to assimilate, I want to believe that it's making sense. When you say you're trying to
Yes,
assimilate, it's like,
very, very.
okay,
It
good.
is.
Okay, so it's like, okay, thank you. So it's not like we are trying to make sense of it, though. All right, thank you so much. That's good feedback. Of course, I know that. And the reason why, it's not because there's a lot of information to take in. It's just simply because, the way session is designed, you would also be reflecting, right, as the conversation is going on, right? And that's what this is meant to do, right? To make you just begin to reflect on your journey and see where the best, most impact, can be made. So we've gone through these 4 interesting categories now. And just like I said, you can also point out if there's a category that we did not include in this. Thank you so much, Ms. Oluwaseun. Yeah. All right, good. That we've not included. Now, what are the career pathways in education? Like, what are the things that we see today? So these are like different career pathways. And we've talked about this, like, I've mentioned it, as I talk through the different categories. There's classroom teaching, curriculum development, school operations and administration, school leadership, education nonprofit management, edtech product development, education policy making, student or career advice. Like, these are like really interesting career pathways that exist today, that people are doing, that are very popular today, right? And these are like different pathways that people can begin to like look through and see, okay, maybe this is what, that tickles my fancy, right? Maybe this is something I want to branch in. And this is not to say that this is becoming obsolete or becoming outdated. No, they are still relevant today and they'll still be relevant in the future. They might evolve at some point, but they are still very, very relevant. So like, I mean, I'm sure like for people on this call right now, you fall into any of these categories, or maybe something that is relating to whatever pathway I have mentioned here, right? So whether you're a classroom teacher, you know, you are an assistant classroom teacher, or you work with policy in terms of curriculum development and delivery and all, or you work around school operations, or you lead a school yourself, or you're managing nonprofits, you're working in nonprofits, you're a policy maker, you're an advisor, what have you, right? And I just want to give like, I'm sure maybe some of these people, you know them already. And these are like a number of my friends, people who are doing amazingly well, as far as, the different pathways are concerned, right? So this is Adiola Adefemi. I mean, she's an amazing educator. A lot of us, we know her already. She's an award-winning educator, won the Best Teacher Award. I think she won it nationally as well. I'm not sure. I know she was awarded by Oshibajo at some point. There's Oluwaseun Jones as well, and this is in a private school. So it's like this is a private school, this is a public school version. I mean, Adiola works in public school. Tosin works in private schools, right? And these are people who are considered to be teacher models, right? These are people who do fantastic jobs, right? Their teaching methods are very innovative. They've found out that, in the classroom, they've become like, maestros, basically. And, when you sit in the classrooms of educators like this, like you're really excited and you're able to sense how palpable their passion for the work is, right? Because they've identified their why for working in this space. And so they are trailblazing, right, in that career. They are trailblazing, basically. Why? Because they understand their why and they know where they want to work in, right? Sometimes when I have conversations with those, I'm like, this person, are you supposed to be in? Because like, like, don't you want to work outside? And it's like, no, I want to be in the classroom. And he totally enjoys his job, right? And these are people that I think like they absolutely enjoy their work. And as a result of that, frustration is like limited. It's not like people don't get frustrated in their jobs. I mean, the frustration comes at some point, but because of your love and your strong why connected to what you're doing, right, you're able to trailblaze, right? And the joy that comes from that work far outweighs whatever complexities that you face in that profession, right? So these are like, models, like, we talked about the 4 different categories, right? So this is a classroom school model now, or category now. And so these are like people, I mean, they're fantastic educators. Even everyone who's teaching here, right? I mean, if you love your job, and you love what you're doing, you can equally be on this page. So you guys are fantastic. You have the people in nonprofit who are trailblazing, right? And I'm just like there are people who, of course, do like great job in different places. But I'm just like giving these examples because there are people that maybe in a way they are closer to us. We kind of know their stories in a way, right? And we see what they are doing, like their impact, the work that they're doing, right? This is Aramide, who founded a tuition-free school, right? And in nonprofits in Ota, serving a lot of kids, giving them access to 12 years of fully funded education. She is a nonprofit leader, right? As far as education is concerned, right? And you have also someone like Gideon Olariwaju, right? Gideon Olariwaju is also like a nonprofit leader. He founded Area I for Africa. They have like interesting projects going up in the north, right? So these are like people you see as models. These are people you see as people who are trailblazing in the category of education nonprofit, right? So you as well, I mean, if you're thinking that what you want to do is like you want to create impact on a larger scale, you want to target some beneficiaries in education, there's a problem that you think needs to be solved, but can only be solved with a nonprofit model, then this is a pathway that you want to consider, and think through, right? And with nonprofits, right, you have opportunities to access a lot of resources. Do you understand? To be able to do the work that you're doing, right? Because I mean, you're able to leverage on giving and generosity of people to be able to advance support to others who are actually in need of that support. Now, education entrepreneurship, I have like two of my like really, cool friends on the slide here. You have Abdullah of, School Labs. I'm sure, a lot of us here, I'm sure a lot of us here, if not everybody, right, uses Corey AI, right, to develop lesson plans. And this is a solution built by Abdullah, my very good friend at School Apps, doing this like really, really, really amazing work to develop the tools that educators need to thrive as educators wherever they are, right? Tools that will help them, reduce the level of redundancy in the work that they do so that they can move fast and do the job that they love doing the most, which is teaching. So it's creating, beautiful tools. And that's from education entrepreneurship, right? He's an education entrepreneur, right? It doesn't work in the classroom, but he gets the feelers of the challenges that are in the classroom and he solves for that. There's Luisa as well, who founded, Kunda Kids, right? And they're doing amazing work. For those who follow Kunda Kids on YouTube, they have a lot of animation that are African-centric, content that are African-centric, that will be really good for your children to learn diction, to learn culture, to learn, social skills and all, right? So these are like, education entrepreneurship models, right? People who are trailblazing in that field of education entrepreneurship, building solutions and using business models to solve challenges that are rocking the education system. So they might be business people who are doing business to make profit, but the work that they are doing really at the end of the day, the impact is to ensure that every child or every learner, whoever they are, wherever they are, have access to high quality education, right? But they do that by leveraging on business models to solve those challenges. Now, finally, you have education policy makers. I have my friends Godwin on this here and Sharon, right? These are like amazing people, right? Godwin works in education policy. He's no more teach for all. He works with, I think AFWAG now. Sharon as well is no more the SSA to Kaduna State government. But these are people who have like given their own, they've defined their journey to be shaping policies, right? Shaping policies, ensuring that the right policies are created and are implemented and are delivered in classrooms at the grassroots level, right? If you speak to Henry, and that's why, when you bring all of this, for instance, if I bring all of these people into the same room, right? The guys that are here, let me go back. These guys, I bring these guys, I bring these guys, and I bring these guys, 8 of them into a room, and I bring a topic, right, and say, let's talk about girl child education. Everybody here will have something to say, and everybody will talk from their own perspectives. Now imagine the amount of power that we can generate if these 8 people get to work together to create solutions to girl child education. And that is why what I said here is very, very powerful. Like for an education ecosystem to be solved, a lot needs to be done by many people, right? And these people need to work together, not in silos. And this is why an understanding of the ecosystem is really important for us as educators. And now it's not only, the reason why we're having sessions, it's not only for you to know that the education system is wide or there are different pathways to explore, right? That is fine. You can know that, right? It is not also only for you to look at, oh, what are the different areas I can transition into? That's beautiful. Honestly, I want educators. In fact, I'm starting a mentorship. I'm going to speak soon on that. And I'm going to bring in some of my friends, like maybe some people on these slides currently, or some people outside, outside of this, of who you've seen here, that I'll be bringing that are working in different career pathways to help those people that, will be going on that mentorship with me for 3 months, right? And we are going to be looking through different pathways, right? And see what's obtainable, and of course help people transition into whatever pathways that they want to. And what we are going to be doing in that 3 months is to map out a plan. First, you are going to see clarity. Second, we'll map out a plan as to how you definitely get from point A to point B in that journey, right? Over 3 months. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that. So, and why that is good, right? Transitioning into other different career pathways. Why that is good, I think one very important reason why this conversation is happening is also how can we begin to draw a map of collaboration, right? How can networking happen between these different categories of different pathways, and how can we begin to build sort of like a network that works solely for delivering the promise of education improvement to that child in the classroom or to that learner in the corporate, training session or what have you, right? So how can, for instance, let's say Adiola is having a challenge with, classroom management. How can she have a conversation with, maybe Gideon to say, I'm having challenges with classroom management. Gideon is saying, oh, we have a program called Fast Track that helps maintain a highly energizing, engaging classroom that we've developed, that we've delivered. Maybe we can deliver that training to your school for those who are struggling with classroom management, right? Or she goes to meet with Abdullah and say, Abdullah, what tool? How do you think I can create lesson plans with AI that would ensure that learning is delivered in a personalized manner to the kids in my classroom so that I can better manage the classroom in a way that those who are sharp don't think that they are less engaged, and those who are struggling don't think that the rigor is just too much. Or they go to meet Godwin and say, Godwin, what can we do about curriculum, right? In a way that we develop something that really works for everybody. Or how can we redesign the timetable so that we put learning experiences during the highly engaging hours? So you can imagine that kind of conversation happening and what value that is going to present and deliver to the learners, to the beneficiaries of whatever it is we're doing. So this is another very important reason why this topic is very important, topic of education pathways, and to know and understand what are the different pathways in education, and then begin to see who can I partner with, who can I speak with, so that someone who is in the classroom, who is getting frustrated, knows that there's help somewhere that I can access. For instance, when I was teaching, I had challenge, I had 64 students in my class, primary 4. 80% of them could not read and write in English language. It was a big problem. I tried different things, Jolly Phonics, Reading Clinic. We did class after, those things were delivering results, but they were not delivering at the speed I wanted to see it, until I found a tech tool called Empatico at that point in time. And Empatico, what it did was to help me connect my classroom to another classroom in the US. And we had those virtual exchanges that began to build curiosity, kindness, empathy in my students. And as a result of those 3 very important virtues, they were able to become motivated intrinsically to begin to think of how they can form study groups by themselves and begin to learn how to speak English very well. The video is on YouTube, right? And I think it's a very interesting video. I mean, I can send the link to you after this session for you to watch. And that happened many years ago, right? But of course, that happened because I was able to speak to find this edtech tool that helped me in my classroom to solve that challenge. There are also other challenges where I just speak to, okay, and you need education materials. We don't have books in my classroom. Okay, which nonprofit is distributing books at this point? Can I write to them? And as a result of that, books are delivered to my classroom because I was able to know that these networks exist. And this network exists to serve the purpose of learning, of teaching and learning, but in their different ways. And as a result of that, more support kept pouring in, and then of course we're able to deliver in 2 years, right? Help many of those kids begin to read and write in English language, right? And that's because I understood all of this, these pathways that can be explored. So this is another reason why, we're doing this session. So education is practically evolving, it's changing. We can all see things are moving very fast and very quick. Do you understand? Things are moving very fast, very quick. Before you know it, things are just like it's just really, there's just a lot of speed happening. And that's why you see the rocket sign on my slide. It's just like pam, 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 climbing like 5, 10 steps at the same time. We are way ahead, right? I mean, you might be in your own little corner and think you found something really exciting about education, and then you just go on YouTube the next day and you'll be like, what? What's happening? Who is this person? Do you understand? It's going right at a very, very wide race, right? And this presents an opportunity for developing new and exciting career pathways in education. And we've seen some of them happening. For instance, e-learning development has become one of let me say, and if you look at e-learning development, instructional design, they're sort of e-learning development is part of instructional design, right? So, but those two, they are very, very, a lot of people are going into instructional design because at the end of the day, what is happening with learning is the fact that learning is moving online, right? People now want to, even for kids, people are looking for. Okay, I'm going to meet this person. Sorry. So people are looking for, opportunities for their kids to even learn online, right? A lot of people, and the way school is now, learning is becoming so democratized in the sense that anybody from anywhere, if you have knowledge, you can easily pass your knowledge across to anybody who's willing to learn. And that's because of technology, right? So this is a space that is really, really growing rapidly. People are becoming education technologists, right? Even in Nigeria, you have people who they work in school, but their job is to ensure that the school is connected. The school knows about the new technology in town that can do teaching and learning. Like that's their primary job, right? So if you are, working in education today and you are like, there's more to what you're doing, and you want to do something more exciting, you can think through what it means to be an education. If you have a knack for technology, like maybe you know how to learn new things very quickly, you can think about education technologies. Sorry, right? And then, apply yourself to learn more about it, and then of course become an education technologist and begin to apply to schools and tell schools, see, my job, what I want to do for you, what I want to do for you is to ensure that your school, has access to the best in that. Like if an edtech tool comes out today, trust me, the teachers in your school know about it tomorrow morning. I'm going to let them and I'm going to train them on it. And schools are looking for people like that already, right? So education content creation. There's a lot of content going out online now on Instagram, on YouTube that people are monetizing. So for instance, even if, let's say you don't even have anything you're doing as an educator, right? Now you have a phone, you have internet. I know of someone who he works currently with, I think with Sahara, this oil company, like he's a big man there, right? I mean, he's a senior manager, but he has a YouTube page that teaches physics. And why did he do it? Because he likes physics. He knows physics. He understands physics. So he just like, and he was looking for opportunities to pass that knowledge across. He does a bit with his kids at home. He has 3 children, but he wants to do it much more. But he can't start a school or he can't go to a classroom right now because right? And maybe when will he start, at that age? And he's quite elderly, maybe like, going close, is in his, 40s already, maybe his late 40s already. And what he did was that, you know what, I'm going to dedicate, 4 hours of my time every weekend to teach physics, record myself, put it on YouTube, right? And put it there. And see his followers growing, right? He's still working as an oil, working in the oil company, right? And right now, he was chatting with my wife at some point and telling my wife that YouTube has reached out to me that he needs to start monetizing his content. And I'm like, what? So you now start making money again. You that are working in oil company, right? You start making money from education. And that made me just reflect that, okay, what now happens to educators who actually educate us, right? Why can't they do things like this? Why can't content creation, and the way it is now, the world is like your oyster, basically, right? You have platforms there. It's just for you to build visibility, create something of value that is, and if it has to do with you learning, what are the tools I can use and learn about those so that I can create something of high quality out there. Why don't you do that? There are a lot of us, we love content creation. Before you know it, your phone is up, you're taking selfie, when that can actually offer value to people in education, right? Private tutoring, amazing, amazing space. Amazing space, honestly, right? This is a space that I've seen people build, multimillionaire businesses from there, right? Learning data engineering, I mentioned it before. Learning data engineering, I mean, it sounds big, but these are like words that, happen every day. When you go to nonprofit, they have monitoring and evaluation officers. And those people, what they do is that they work with data, right? And use data to inform, program design, use data to inform what is the next step we are going to take in the classroom right now. They are learning data engineers, even in schools, right? People who take assessment and they use it to advise school, right? Okay, so for instance, even if you're a teacher and you're looking for something exciting to do by the side within your school, why don't you speak to your for instance, if you have knowledge about data, okay, speak to your principal and tell, see, this is what I can do, right? I understand data to an extent. I know how to analyze data. I can know when data is skewing to this point. So can I take the school's data and analyze it? And then, of course, we see what gaps exist within the school, and we're able to advise teachers better on which child they should focus on more and which child they should, or which topic is it that they find out according to the data that the trend is leading you to say that this topic looks like a lot of students struggle with this topic, right? And if you can, achieve that, if you can use the data maybe over 3 to 4 years to establish that trend. You can use that to advise whoever teaches that class the next year and other years that when you come to this topic, pay attention to this topic. Imagine if school has someone who can help them uncover insights like that, what results they will achieve in their classroom. Imagine if you pitch that to your school and then of course you deliver results, you never can tell, the school can just say, okay, you know what, just focus on this full time and just like give us the right data. It's like, they're like, a lot of things that we could be, there are a lot of possibilities, right? Is it education? There are education's AI machine learning developers now. There are people who even develop their AI tools. There's a platform called Play Lab. Teachers go there to develop their own AI tools, right? Develop their own chat GPT for themselves that is tailored to their classroom. Just feed it with some data, right? There's EdTech product design, and these are like exciting career pathways that you can look out for. Like you already know, Schoolinka has an instructional design program, right? If you would like to be a part of it, you can sign up, right? And the registration is still on. We have a huge discount on that program. You can check it out because I feel like instructional design is a strong wave. Not I feel like I know it's a strong wave. Like people, are going to like, the way education is going, you don't have a choice than to be an, even if you work in a classroom, that to become an instructional designer and understand the principles of, what makes instructional design, how to develop the right curriculums, the learning theories, you just need to understand all these things, right? So, we have a program that is up and you can check that out on our platform. I think there's a flyer of this in this slide as well. But the most important thing is really look at these different career pathways. This list is not exhaustive. Like there are quite a lot of them if you make your research of things you can start doing or different pathways that you can start considering, right? And if you look at what I put here, they still just cut across, classroom and school. If we begin to unpack what it means in nonprofits, if we begin to unpack what it means in education policy and education entrepreneurship, you see that there's a whole lot that can be happening in education. There's a whole lot of value that you can begin to think of, delivering as far as education is concerned. So how do you really define your own pathway? I'll say like there are three very important questions, right? And this has worked for me, worked for people who have helped, who are thinking about this as well, right? And the first question is, what aspect of education am I most passionate about? That's a question you should ask yourself. What are the things that, you can do if they wake you up from the sleep and they say, we're not going to pay you money, you come and do this, right, in education, and you think you jump on it immediately. That's something to take note about. Second is, what kind of change or impact do I want to make in education? What do I want to see? What do I want people to talk about my work in the next 10 years? Right? What do I want them to see me as and say, okay, because of Olutola, for instance, this happened in this place, right? In this education sector. Third is, how does my unique skills and interests align with potential career pathways in education? Now, when you're able to answer these three very important questions, you come at the intersection of passion, impact, and skills. Now, passion is, of course, what you're passionate about. Impact is what do you want them to know you for, right? And then skills is what you're really good at. If you are able to define these three, it will be easier for you to find a career pathway in education for you to. It's a lot, right? So this alone itself is like, another like maybe 2 weeks conversation and engagement on its own with a lot of uncovering to do and all of these things, right? But of course, the brief or the summary of it is the fact that if you're able to identify your passion, impact, and the skills that you possess, the impact you want to create at the intersection of these three, you'll be able to find what pathways you want to explore in education. And I'll say, like, for any pathway you choose, there are some skills that are really important as educators. One is communication. You need communication. As an educator, you have to be a communicator, either for classroom teaching or roles that require collaboration, whatever. You need to be a good communicator. You need to be tech savvy in this age. So there's nothing like, I don't need to, you have to be tech savvy. Very important. You have to love technology. The way education is, you have to love education. Adaptability, you need to be able to evolve, right? You need to be able to, like I'll say, like, you are highly skilled with both your left and your right hands. Now, I don't mean it literally. What I mean is the fact that you can switch, right, roles because you're adaptable, right? You're able to quickly see where the opportunity is at, and then how does your skill and passion and impact aligns to that, and then switch to it. The networking, you need to be able to network, meet other people, attend conferences. That's where you learn more about these things. Join online communities. Join Schoolinka. If you're not part of Schoolinka yet, we have free courses on our platform that you can start taking from now. So, do you understand? Like, join Schoolinka if you're not part of Schoolinka. If you're not signed up to the platform, sign up. It's free to sign up to the platform, right? So, and then begin to, meet people, join communities, right? Connect with professionals in education. And that's how you begin to broaden your horizon. Start learning about what people are doing and be like, oh, really? This actually exists. And then you find out that it actually does exist, right? And before you know it, you might just find out something that really excites you more. So I'm going to ask this question sort of like in closing. If money wasn't a factor, what education career would you be exploring? Now, when I say money, wasn't a factor, I mean like money that you would earn, right? You're not thinking of, oh, I need to make 5 billion in the next 6 months. And of course, money to acquire the skill, like the assumption that everything you need is available. So what education career will you be exploring? I mean, and I would like to have thoughts, right? So please, yes, Sharon is a great person. Johnson, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Olutola says education policy. Yes, very exciting space to work in, honestly. Very exciting space. Yeah, Omishore, please go ahead. I see your
Okay.
hand.
Okay. Yes. Okay. My name is Adekunle Omishore, and I work with government, and I have about 10 years left to retirement, so that should give you an idea of my age.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, but for me right now, it's a question of for us right now at this stage, it is money is the first thing, because all the other areas that you've mentioned, whether it is non-profits and so on, so on and so forth, they've done this, done that, and all that. The issue is that we really didn't protect ourselves. We were sort of just committed, teaching in and out, almost 24 hours and all that. And well, time has gone, but we are happy. I actually switched to technology about 20 years ago, but I was not doing it for any other reason, but for just my students, learn PowerPoint, learn Excel, was doing everything and all that. And we thank God for the results. So, but for me right now, it's just a question of now we are getting close to retirement. We now need to make sure that we get. So I am interested more in entrepreneurship, and I also want to make a request. Please, can you make this video available? I need to get it across to my people where I work. It's a popular secondary school in Nigeria, and there I am like the one-eyed man among the blind. So I need to communicate some of the things I've learned in school that I've learned here in Schoolinka, and also this kind of meeting we've had tonight. I really need to sit my people down so that we can sit down and go over this, and then see how each person can transition into one area or the other. So that's just what I want to
Thank you so
say.
much,
So
sir.
please, we will
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
if you can make.
Yes. All right. So, I mean, we'll definitely make this available. I'm sure some of my team members are on the call already. I mean, they work to make this available by the next couple of days or weeks thereabout. But of course, it will be available. Thank you so much for sharing. And right, like you said, right? Is also, I feel like people like you, sir, are people that education entrepreneurs should even be coming to learn from, right? There's something that, of course, we are also thinking of, or let me see, I am thinking of at the moment, is to see how education entrepreneurs can sit down with educators who have spent a good number of years in the classroom and learn from them, so that we close the gap between tools building and implementation in class. Because at the end of the day, when you go to the edtech market, they see a lot of tools that it's practically not working. It doesn't make sense, right? So I think, this is another way you can contribute to the ecosystem anyway, even to education entrepreneurs. You should guide education entrepreneurs on what they can build that works, especially for education in Nigeria. But thank you so much, sir, for sharing. We'll make the video
That would be
available
great,
and
sir.
we'll let
Yes.
you know over. Yes, thank you, sir. Yeah. All right, good. In the chat box, I can see people saying education. Looks like there's a lot of education policy. People want to work in policy, want to work with the government, want to work with international nonprofits. Instructional design, Jesse. Instructional design. I hope you've signed up for Schoolinka's instructional design program. if you are not, that you're wrong. Please go ahead and sign up. I'm going to share information about that soon as well. So, but I mean, it's really good to see that you're interested in instructional design. Education entrepreneurship, educator celebration coach. I would love to learn more about that. That sounds interesting. Okay, teacher training and mentoring falls, is at an intersection of, it can be in non-profit, it can be in policy, it can actually be in 4 of them, right? So it can be in classroom category. So if you're like an in-house trainer within a school, right? It can be there, right? So you can just like, maybe be an in-house trainer. I know schools that probably have training departments in their schools, you can work there. In non-profit, you can establish a non-profit that trains teachers, right? There are quite a number of them that trains teachers. You can also be an education entrepreneur like me at Schoolinka. What we do at Schoolinka, right? To also like train people, maybe set up a company that trains teachers or train people. Yeah, then it can be in policy, right? That has to do with, working with the government to define what teacher training means. So it can fall into any of the categories actually. And that's something I need to mention, that like there are some roles that basically can cut across. It just depends on what angle you're working from and what resources are available to you, or what kind of resources you want to use. Do you want to mobilize resources from the private sector to do your work, or mobilize resources from the public sector or from the civil society sector, right? That will now determine which category you fall into, right? Models are very important. There's also something around models. So people ask you, what's your model? That means, how do you deliver value? Or let me say, how do you create value? How do you deliver value? And how do you capture value back in return? That's your model, right? So that's the model of the work. So that determines which of the categories you practically fall into. I hope that answers the questions, Ngozi. Curriculum development, Benson, that's really good. All right, nice. Teacher training and development, nice, Mr. Kudus. Thank you so much for sharing. This is really good, right? And I think that, of course, this session has been really valuable to people. So, like I said earlier, for those on this call, right, I'm happy, right? So I'm starting a mentorship, program, and it's absolutely free, honestly. And what we're going to be doing for 3 months is to be clear on how do you want to show up in education, right? Going forward, who do you want to be in education, right? We are going to work on clarity, and we are going to work on a plan, right? Okay, over the next couple of years, this is the plan. Over the next couple of months, this is what I want to do to move me from where I am right now to point B or point C in that journey, right? And we're going to do it from June to August 2025. And it's not only going to be by me, it's going to be by me and a couple of people that I'll be inviting on board as well to join. We'll have sessions, we'll have like evening conversations like this, we'll have one-on-one conversations as well. So if you are interested, please use the link on the slide right now, bit.ly/mentorship with Olu. And then, of course, we'll reach out to you. So this link as well will be shared in a follow-on email as well to you guys, maybe tomorrow or so. But I know the email will go out very soon, so that if you want to be a part of it, you can be a part of it as well. I think it's going to really be a very, very exciting, period, right, for people who are on the mentorship program. Then finally, our instructions for those who want to. All right, sorry, Ms. Emmanuel Ayers, do you want to say something? Let me.
No.
All right, good. So for those who are interested in instructional design, like I said before, this is a space you want as an educator. I think even as an educator, just you should be a part of this program. Honestly, you should be a part of this program. And we have this 4 months program that is currently running. The first cohort is currently running. Our second cohort is starting by June 6th. And so, oh my goodness, I'm going to mute Miss Emmanuel. So you can, and it's fully online, so you can join from anywhere you are. And what you are going to be learning is the fundamentals of instructional design. You're going to learn about how you can use digital tools to create learning experiences. Digital tools like Articulate 360. using rise line, rise and storyline of articulate. Yeah. So, and then of course, the Adobe Suite tools, you're going to learn how to use that to also create engaging online courses. And when I say online courses, it's not only, you creating for other people, even you for yourself, there are some things that that you can package in an online course and also sell, right? Or use it to even maybe just impact people, maybe you just want to share your knowledge wide. This is a very good opportunity for you to learn how to design learning that sticks, learning that would really be engaging for whoever you're designing for. And of course, there'll be, hands-on experience that you gain through the, digital learning experiences as well. You can get internship placement. I mean, on our call this morning, we were saying within the team that someone got a job, among the first cohorts, right? And the person got a job as a curriculum developer, right, for a company. And we're really excited about that, to see that someone who came into the program, right, and then just like maybe 7 or 8 person already has a job as well. And then of course, even within Schoolinka as well, we are taking on some people from the first cohort to create courses on our platform, right? I think we're taking like 5 people or so, Suzanne, if I'm correct, on that program, which is also another opportunity, like internship opportunity for them to actually, demonstrate what they've learned. But I mean, I feel like the most important thing is who you become and the skills you acquire on this program. And class starts by June 6th. I mean, I think if there's anything that you want to take away, from this program, this should be one of it, right? Among the many other things that has happened. So if you're interested in this, please, the link is also on the page, on this slide currently. You can use that to sign up. I think, of course, to come on in the following, email as well. So at this point, I'll just draw the curtain and say thank you so much. It's so good. I mean, I never knew that 40 people will stay to the end. But I'm going to stop here and say thank you so much, everyone, for listening and for joining the session this evening. And if there's any question that you have for me, please go ahead to share. I can see, let me check the WhatsApp. Yes, you can join the mentorship if you sign up for the instructional design course. Yes, you can join it. Don't worry, it will clash. I'll make sure it doesn't clash with instructional design program. Yeah. All right, good. So I can see okay, I'm just looking at, okay, all right, good. So please, is there any question or any thoughts that anybody wants to share before we call it a night? I'm happy for you, Lutola. I mean, it's a reflection evening. Yeah, of course, let's keep reflecting, honestly. Let's keep thinking. There's just a lot of opportunities in education, like vast opportunities. If only we can just like, think through passion, skill, and impact. Thank you, Mr. Kudus, as well for joining. For someone with no classroom experience, can such a person be in education? Of course, you can be in education policy without classroom experience. But I'll say that, I mean, I always advocate that people who work in policy should have classroom experience, but it's not a criteria, right? So there are different areas of education policy at the end of the day. There are those who take data and measure data and understand what the data is saying and use that data to advise whoever is creating whatever it is they are creating in programs and curriculum. So you don't really have to have a classroom experience, but it will be really good. It will be richer if you have a classroom experience, because that way you'll be helping to develop policies that can easily be implemented in our classrooms, or that policies that mirrors the realities of the classrooms. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Saz. Thank you so much, Maz. Thank you so much for joining this evening. And since there are no questions or thoughts, I'll just say good night at this point. Let's have a good evening and a good rest of the week ahead. Bye, everyone.